Hi there, this is a recording of the Unit 5 test, and this is Test A. And please make sure that you're checking your answer, like what the actual A says, because some of them have been rearranged on some versions of version A. So the first one, it says describe how to rotate a 2D figure in order to create a hemisphere into a half a sphere. And it looks like if I rotated it that way, it's going to create a whole sphere. But if I rotated it this way, I'm going to create a half of a sphere, because that is going to be, maintain being flat. And this is going to be rounded. So it's going to be to rotate around the horizontal axis. Number 2, it says when finding a cross-section of a triangular prism, a trapezoid could be obtained by... and the answer to this one is if it's parallel to the bases, it's going to be a triangle. If it's perpendicular to the bases, I'm going to be a rectangle. If it's diagonal to the bases, I'm actually going to be able to create a trapezoid. And so that's going to create a trapezoid. And then the last one says take a cross-section from a vertex to a face, and that's going to create a triangle. So C is your answer there. The next one, number 3, it says which information is needed to show a parallelogram is a rectangle. So I'm going to go through each of one of these and show you what, if I find out some information about diagonals, what does that prove that quadrilateral is. For the case of diagonals bisecting each other, this proves that a quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So that one is not the correct answer. The diagonals are perpendicular to each other. This one proves that it is a rhombus. So that is not the answer. If the diagonals are congruent, that actually proves that the quadrilateral is a rectangle. So that would be the correct answer. And the last one, number 3, it says the diagonals are perpendicular and congruent, and that would be a square. So that is not the right answer either. Number 4, it says which of these could not be the fourth vertex of a parallelogram given the vertices in the, that are given. The first thing that I know is that a parallelogram, the opposite sides are parallel. So any one I choose, the opposite sides have to be parallel. Opposite sides are parallel. So I can do it one way. I can just use the points and I can plot them and see if that creates a side that's parallel to the other side. And for this one, it does. Okay, so 8-1 would create a side that is parallel to the opposite side. So that's going to be true. If I put in 9-1, then that's going to create this side, which is not true. Now for some of you guys, so that is not true. So that's going to be the one that's not. If I go ahead and I look at 2, -7, that's going to create this one, and it's going to be parallel to its opposite side, BC. So that one's going to be okay. And 0-5 is going to be a continuation of that line that I drew first. So it's also going to create a line that's parallel. So my answer to number 4 is B. Number 5, if you look at it, says write an equation that's perpendicular to the line VW. And VW is the line 0.11 and the 0.73. So I have this line here. It says perpendicular bisectors. So the first thing is I'm going to have to find the midpoint. And the midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So the midpoint here is 8 divided by 2, and that would be 4. So the midpoint is going to be 4. And then I have my 1 plus 3 is 4 divided by 2, which is 2. So my midpoint is going to be here at 4, 2. So that gives me an xy that the line is going to go through. So the line's going to look something like that. I don't really know what it is yet. So the next thing I need to know is I need to know the slope of this line. And to find the slope of this line, I know that it's rise over run, so it's going up 1 and over 3. So the slope of the line that VW that's given is 1/3. So the slope of the perpendicular to that line is going to be -3, the opposite sign, and it's the reciprocal. So it's -3 over 1. So automatically looking at my answers, I can eliminate B and C because I need my equation to have a slope of -3. So then I have to find my B. So where is it going to hit the y-axis? Now, I can see from the choices that my answer is going to have to be positive. So I can do by process of elimination. I know that A, but if I want to plug in my x and y, so y is equal to mx plus b, and I'm going to plug in my midpoint y value, and plug in my slope, and plug in my x y value from a midpoint, and solve for b, I find that b is equal to 14. So I've confirmed that the answer to number 5 is A. Point T, it says divide the segment AB into a ratio of 2 to 7. So this is, A is going to be 2, and B is going to be 7. And so my formula to convert a ratio to a fraction looks like A over A plus B. And you can find that on your formula sheet in the partition equation, or the partition formula. So here it's going to be 2 over 2 plus 7, which is 2/9. So the answer is B. The next one is I'm using the partition formula, but I'm given it in fraction form. So I know that I'm finding a point that's 1/3 of the distance from A to B. And A is -6, 9. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that. And B is 3, -3. So C, and this is A. So it's going to be 1/3 the distance from A. So here in my formula, my A is going to be my x1, y1, my B is going to be x2, y2. And I'm going to use my formula from the formula sheet, and that is x1 plus my fraction 1/3, the distance of, or the length of x, and then y1 plus 1/3 times my length of y. Or my length, I guess the difference in my y's. So I plug in my numbers. -6 plus 1/3, and that would be 3 minus -6. And then I have 9 plus 1/3 times -3 minus 9. So -6 plus 1/3 times 12, because that would be 3 plus 6 is 9. And then 9 plus 1/3 times -12. So -6 plus 3. And then I have 9 plus -4. And so it's 3, 5 is my, -3, 5 is my answer. And I can check, and it would be -3, 5, and you can see that that's about 1/3 of the way from A to C. Number 7. It shows the cross section, and it says that this is parallel to the base, so my base is a triangle. And I know that my base actually names my figures. So my choices would be like a triangular prism or a triangular pyramid. So I know it's not a cone, and I know it's not a square pyramid. And then I see that its perpendicular cross section is a rectangle, and so every prism's perpendicular cross section to the base is a is a rectangle. So I know that this, if it was a triangular pyramid, it would have to be a triangle, would be my cross section perpendicular to the base. Number 9, it says which of the following equations describes a line parallel to the line given. So the first thing is I need to actually find out what the slope of this line is. And it appears that it's up to and then over 5. So my slope of this line is 2/5. And it's parallel. So I'm looking for the slope of a line that is actually 2/5. So I can mark off those two because the slope is -5/2 there and 5/2. It's not 2/5. So the other thing I need to realize is I need it in slope-intercept form. These two are not in slope-intercept form. So I need to put them in slope-intercept form. So I have -2x plus 5y is equal to -15. And I add 2x to both sides. And so it becomes 5y is equal to 2x minus 15. And I divide everything by 5. So I can see that my slope is 2/5 there. And then let's just check C. And that's -5x plus 2y is equal to 16. I add 5x to both sides. So it becomes 2y is equal to 5x plus 16, and I divide everything by 2, so here my slope would be 5/2, and that's not right. So my answer is B. Number 10, it's very helpful to know the properties of a rhombus. The properties of the rhombus are all four sides are congruent to each other. So if I find the length of one side, and in this case GH, I can just multiply that by 4. And so I use my distance formula, and it's x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y2 squared, y1 squared, and then I take the square root of that. So I'm going to take 4 minus negative 4, and then 6 minus 4. And so this becomes 8 squared plus 2 squared, and that's the square root. So it's 64 plus 4 is 68, square root of 68. And so each of my sides is equal to the square root of 68. And whenever I multiply that out, it's 32.98. Moving on along to the free response questions. Here it says I want the area of a cross section parallel to the bases, and so that's going to be a circle. So the area of a circle is equal to pi r squared. And so the area is equal to pi, and that's r squared, so that would be 100 pi. Could be your answer. Now, you could also plug in pi, and so the answer would be 314 point something, something, something. Either one I accepted. Number 12, it asks you to find the perimeter of each of this triangle. So I need to use the distance formula to find the length of AB, and to find the length of BC, and the length of CA. And when I use the distance formula, I would find that the length of AB is going to be 7 minus 1 squared plus 4 minus 1 squared, and so that's going to be 36 plus 9 is going to be the square root of 45. And then BC is going to be 9 minus 1 squared plus 0 minus 1 squared, and so that's going to be 64 plus 1 is the square root of 65. And then CA, if I look at this one, it's 9 minus 7 squared plus 0 minus 4 squared. So that's going to be 2 squared plus negative 4 squared, 16, so square root of 20. And I add up all of those together, and I come up with my wonderful answer of, I'm sorry, I need to use my calculator, and you can use your calculator and find your answer here. So I have the square root of 45, plus the square root of 65, and then plus the square root of 20. And I find the answer to be 19.24. Now the area, I find the calculation of the area to be a little bit easier because I don't have to use the distance formula, because my base, my height, I have no idea what my height is. I know what my length of my base is because I know that's BC, and I found that up here. But I have no idea what my height is. And a height has to be perpendicular to that, and I don't know what that is. So I have to create this rectangle and then subtract out the triangles, the area of the triangles. The area of the rectangle here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 by 4, right? So that's going to be 32. And then I have to subtract out the area of all of the triangles that are created. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 3 is 18, and 18 divided by 2 is 9. And the area of B is 2 by 4, which is 8 divided by 2 is 4. Area of C is 8 times 1 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. So then I have the area is equal to 32 minus 9 minus 4 minus, or plus 4 plus 4. So 32 minus 17, and that's 15. So the area is 15 units squared. The next one is, it says M is the midpoint of DF. So I have to draw M here, and I find the midpoint, add the x's, divide by 2, that's 8 divided by 2 is 4. Add the y's, divide by 2, 12 divided by 2 is 6. Then I have the midpoint of DE is N. So to find the coordinates of that, I add the 2, 14 divided by 2, that's 7. 9 plus 7 divided by 2, that would be 16 divided by 2, so that's 8. So your answer is 4, 6, and 7, 8. And then I need to find the length, so I use the distance formula to find the length. And it is 7 minus 4 squared plus 8 minus 6 squared. And so the length is 3 squared plus 2 squared, which is the square root of 13. And then to find the slope, I just do the change of y over change of x, and m is equal to the slope. So it's 8 minus 6 over 7 minus 3, so that is 7 minus 4, excuse me. So that is 2/3. The slope is 2/3. And then on to the last one, number 14, is we have to determine whether the parallelogram is a rhombus. And to do this, I could have done it two ways. I could have determined that the slope of my diagonals, so the slopes of the diagonals are perpendicular, so I could have found the slopes, and if they're the negative reciprocal, or I could have said all side lengths are equal. Lengths are congruent to each other or equal to each other. So you can go through this and you can use 3, 11, and C is 11, -1, and you can determine that the slope of that is -12 over 8, so it's -3 over 2, and the slope of the diagonal BD, B is 10, 7, and D is 4, 3, and so I have the slope 7 minus 3 is 4, and 10 minus 4 is 6, so that is 2/3, and they are perpendicular, so they are congruent. And I could have also used the distance formula to find the lengths. Okay, and the bonus, I'm not going to show you the answer to the bonus. You need to figure that one out. So go to your teacher and ask them what the answer to it is. Hopefully that will help.